Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And as discussed in the daily financial news, on Thursdays, we speak to the one and only, the man, myth, the legend, Mr. Jonathan Twombly. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing really well. This first topic is something I want to get out there. I think it's an important index, but it's not one that's going to leave you all warm and fuzzy. It's called the Misery Index, which was very popular in the U.S. during the Jimmy Carter era. Do you know anything about the Misery Index? And have you heard of it before? Or is this the first time?
No, I have heard of it. I just don't remember what it is, and I have not looked at it. So I didn't know it was still a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's still a thing. It's still tracked. It obviously hasn't been reported because we've been under 10, which is kind of like a good economy for a long time. So let's break down the math. Let's give some historical context, and then most importantly, talk about why I think it is about to show up in the media more and more this year. So the Misery Index is actually, as calculations go, pretty simple. It is simply CPI, inflation, plus the unemployment rate. And for those of you that are sophisticated, it's U3, not U6. So it's the one that the media talks about. So here are some numbers just for context. 1975, January to be specific, the Misery Index got to 19.9%. June 1980, it peaked in the US at 22%, a la Jimmy Carter, one-term president. During April of 2020, it actually jumped, skyrocketed to 15%. Now that was mainly because unemployment that month reported 14.7, and inflation was a very minimal 0.3. As we exited the year, December, it was 10.94, so right over that kind of 10 number, with 7% inflation and 3.9% unemployment. I believe we could very easily see unemployment rise, and I don't think inflation is peaked. So, Jonathan, I think the Misery Index is going to hit the media's attention because I think it's going to start to consistently bounce above 10, which historically has been uncomfortable for consumers. So what do you think of all that?
Well, I'm curious, what were in the 1970s when they had those high readings, what was the breakdown?
It was mainly, so inflation peaked at 14 something. So again, if we were going to balance that out, that would mean unemployment was 5 or something. But I actually remember them both being bad. So unemployment had to be 8 or 9%. We could look it up, and inflation would have been the other half of that. So let's actually look it up.
I think unemployment didn't shoot up until after the recession started.
Oh, that's probably true, right? After the raise of rates, right? Yeah.
And I think, so it's interesting. I mean, one thing that's definitely different if you look at those numbers is that what's considered full employment in the economy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It used to be 5%, and the Fed made its decisions around that 5% number. So if inflation went, if unemployment went below 5%, they'd worry about the economy overheating. But recently they haven't done that, and the unemployment rate, with natural unemployment, seems to be more like 3% where it is now.
Yeah. So
I wonder. I mean, I always thought unemployment was more of a misery statistic than inflation, but I could be wrong. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of these numbers, honestly.
So I have them here for you. So 1975, the unemployment was 8.1%. So that would mean inflation was 11.
Right.
Let's go January 1980. This is all from a simple Google search, so it is what it is. 80 was 6.3% unemployment, so that meant inflation was 16%.
Yeah.
So yeah, so unemployment peaked in the early 80s at 10% or 10.4 in 1983, and then it went down from there. So
yeah, so when you and I were basically young teenagers, or right around.
Yeah, that was the year we almost lost our home and had to move from California to Michigan. We were one weekend away. So yeah, that was a rough time.
Yeah, I mean, so unemployment was really high, and that was just sort of like the way things were back in and even when we were little, because unemployment was persistently high throughout the 70s, right?
I mean, yeah.
So, and inflation was a problem. Not. I mean, it got out of hand in the Carter years, but it was not.
It wasn't broke. Yeah.
Well, because remember, like Nixon imposed price controls, right? So
we got to talk about that. That is, I hear rhetoric from certain legislators that price controls and the greedy capitalists and all of that. boy, we bring on price controls, this thing gets wacky fast. Price controls, bad, bad, bad.
I don't think that's going to happen, though. I mean, I think like there's always people who talk about that, like on the fringe,
Sure.
but I don't think that anybody, I mean, we tried it and it didn't work,
It blew up spectacularly.
blew up spectacularly. So I don't think that that's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to track this number. Like I said, I don't know what to make of it right now. I know certainly people are complaining about inflation quite a bit, right? Because they haven't seen anything like this for quite some time.
Yeah. Yep.
We'll see where it goes. I think I agree with you though, that I think the key really is unemployment. Like if you see unemployment start to go up on top of inflation, and you have that stagflation environment that we had in the 70s, that will create a lot of.
Well, I totally agree. It's really hard to have a problem at the consumer level when unemployment is sub 4. I believe sub 4 is unnatural. I believe we're about to see participation rate go up. We're about 1.7% below natural trend. And some of this is going to be because the stock market hurts, right? People's 401ks or 201ks. There were lots of younger folks making money in crypto. They just were. Yeah. And now they're not. And pretty soon they got to pay their bills and they're going to just go get a job. So I think I don't have a rosy picture about 2022. I think unemployment ends the year higher, probably points higher than it is today. And I think inflation may roll over in April when the base effect kicks in, but I don't think it gets below 5%. So we could be in for a misery index north of 10 all year, which is not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll definitely see what happens with the Fed rate hikes, right? That's going to have an impact across the board. And there's no doubt that the economy is hot. I mean, I think that the fourth quarter was like the highest in how
long time, 6.9%, except for that one snapback quarter after the pandemic, which was higher, but that was unnatural. It's highest since I think it was 87 or something. So 40 years basically. Yeah.
So pretty strong growth, obviously, snapping back.
Yeah, I actually want to push back on that. I've actually dug into that number. So again, 6.9 headline number. Everybody goes, yay, let's celebrate. 4.9% of that, or roughly 75%, Jonathan, was inventory build. And again, having watched this number for a long time, basically what happened in the quarter is all the buyers were double and triple ordering. And now the stuff's showing up. And pretty soon we're going to have, sales at the mall and all of this stuff.
How does that affect inflation though? Right? Because if you start cutting prices on stuff, right, then that's suddenly, I mean, I guess we're going to find out now real quick who was right about this, because if it really was supply chain issues and now you've got a lot of stuff on the market, right, then you're going to see some price cutting.
Yeah,
and maybe Powell will say, okay, Powell was right about all this all along.
Yeah, it is certainly going to be some points of this for sure. There's absolutely some transitory impacts of this. I think it's a point or two. It's not 5 points, right? It's in order to get to 2% by the end of the year, he needs a whole lot of luck, I think. So again, I think we need to talk about the misery index. It's not fun. It does definitely a consumer-oriented index I will be watching and talking about once a month. Because again, it's the two things that impact consumers. Inflation, everybody goes to the store, everybody goes to the gas station. And unemployment, right? The joke is, what's the difference between a depression and a recession? Depression is when you're unemployed. A recession is when your neighbor's unemployed. So
that's a really funny definition.
Yeah. So let's watch this going. So Jonathan, any other thoughts on this?
Well, actually, along those lines, I am kind of curious because I have been seeing people on Facebook and stuff really complaining about prices of various things like gasoline and stuff like that. But I'm not seeing it here, which is so. I mean, we're definitely noticing the prices of some goods going up, right?
Yeah.
But it's spotty. Like the price of beef is way up. Yeah. The price of pork doesn't seem to have changed very much. Sometimes it's like seems super cheap, right? And so I haven't really seen. And price of gas. When I hear people talking about how expensive gas is, in different places of the country, I'm like, really? It's like $2 less here.
Wow.
Right? Even with all the taxes that we have in New York. So
what is a gallon roughly?
I bought gas for like $3.39 a gallon the other day.
I think I paid $5.49 2 days ago, I think, or $5.39, something like that. It's high.
So, but here it does. I mean, last year it was 2 something.
Oh, okay.
But it's, it's gone up, but it hasn't gone up from 2 to
Well-
5, right?
Well,
So,
2.5 to 3.5, that's, I don't know, call it 40%.
yeah, it's true. But this is also a number which, I remember, you probably remember this too, in the late 90s, gasoline prices skyrocketed.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody complained about it, but nobody was talking about inflation at all.
Mhm.
Right. And it was because like, well, everybody decided to trade in their little like
Yeah.
Pinto for an SUV all at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're like, why is my gas so expensive? Well, like, but when the economy is good, the price of gas goes up. I mean, this is just, it always goes up when the economy is strong. But I guess, when prices of everything else is going up, then suddenly people are like, oh, it's inflation, right?
Yeah.
It's actually just the strong economy for gas. The demand for gas has gone up.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, it is, I don't know, let's close this out. I actually have been hearing that the January jobs report, which comes out tomorrow, so Friday, could surprise people and be negative. Have you heard this?
no, I have not heard that yet, but I wasn't paying attention. So that doesn't mean.
Yeah, no, so the call, right,
Yeah.
going into the week was 150,000 addition. So slower than December, but not bad. Then I think it was Friday, it might have been Saturday, the president's economic advisor started whispering, hey, the January job report could be bad. Oh, by the way, if somebody gets, surveyed and they're out on sick or they're taking care of somebody else's sick, they're not counted. Oh, by the way, it could be bad. Now PNC Financial is out with negative 400,000. And I think it was JP Morgan. Let me check. I have the numbers here. Goldman Sachs is out with 250,000 negative tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? Now that I'm reminded of this, yes, I have heard some of this. I think people were talking about the Omicron effect on the economy because people, everyone stayed home in January because of Omicron. So I think that's what we're seeing for sure.
Yeah. And then ADP yesterday, which these indexes under the casual observation are similar. They're really not. They're non-correlated. Came out with negative 301. That was interesting. ADP negative 301 private payroll, mainly leisure and hospitality was a big drop of like 190 or something. So
that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
If people are staying home because of the Omicron spike, then for sure.
Yeah. I think unemployment's going to go up from here. We shall see. So Jonathan, how can people find you and get part of your world?
So a number of different ways. If you would like to get on my investor list, you can Google Two Bridges Asset Management LLC and fill out the investor form and we'll be in touch. Or you can join my free Facebook group, which is called the Multifamily Investment Community. So search for that on Facebook. And if you would like to just get on my mailing list, you can download the ultimate guide to buying your first 100+ unit apartment building with other people's money and get paid to do it.
Nice.
Which you can find at multifamilylaunchpad, all one word, .org. So multifamilylaunchpad.org, you can download that and get on my email list.
Very cool, folks. Do all of those things. Support Jonathan. He gives us an hour every week. And again, remember, he has a playlist. Go back and watch some of his content. It's amazing stuff he gives you every week. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, Michael.